I cannot believe how much these number one and how long these defensemen sign for these days. Is Darnell Nurse exactly what the Oilers need? Was Pelech's deal the right deal? Welcome to the worst sports channel on YouTube, Hot Garbage Sports with me, Coach Ryan D, and we're going to talk about two supreme number one defensemen for their respective teams. Adam Pelech and Darnell Nurse have signed legendary 8-year deals for their teams, locking them in at age 27 and 28 until their 34 to 36 birthday. Unbelievable flat cap situation, and these players have locked themselves in to deals this long. Teams have committed to them, and they think they are key cogs going forward. So let's talk about both.
Here's Lemieux, the center penalty coming up.
And if this is your first time on the channel, we cover all things NHL. So drop us a like, drop us a subscribe, join us through the off season as we get ramped up for training camp and regular season action. Darnell Nurse had an interesting entrance into the NHL. He came on as a very high profile pick for the Edmonton Oilers at pick number 8 and was supposed to be able to help save their defensive woes while they were in the midst of getting one of their trillion first overall draft picks. Most of them that, worked out fine, and one that was a huge bust, and one that was, well, McJesus. It took us some time, but we have finally hit the level where Darnell Nurse is an elite NHL defenseman that Edmonton hoped he would be. He entered last year as a pretty good defenseman, and he finished the year as a clear-cut favorite to make Team Canada for the Olympics, an NHL All-Star, and a true number one defenseman, and he has now been paid like it. 8 years, $9.25 million per year. And whoo-wee, are these two teams in orange excited. The trouble with the Edmonton Oilers, though, isn't the fact that they're getting a number one defenseman. It's the fact that they have just accepted a massive amount of risk with this contract. If Darnell Nurse lives up to what he did last year, this is an absolute fair deal, but you're paying at his ceiling, not in the middle and not at his floor. So it's risky for a team that has already dedicated so much money to McDavid and to Draisaitl, and that were schooled by the Jets last year in having depth and decent signings to be able to move you through the playoffs. So now, just like the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Edmonton Oilers have locked themselves into 3 major players with major deals, and they have to lean on these 3 players in order to win a Stanley Cup. So now the pressure is on Nurse. The pressure was always on McDavid and Draisaitl. He joins the crew. It will be the same media pressure, just in a different market than what Matthews and Marner gets. If a Stanley Cup doesn't come to Edmonton, I guarantee you it is going to fall to the fault of these 3 players and their contracts as per the fan base. It's just what Edmonton Oilers fans are going to do. Jets fans would do the same. I'm not saying we'd be any different. We're not above it. So these 3 players must carry the Edmonton Oilers to playoff success. And Darnell Nurse can definitely do that. The man is a monster. Let's go take a look at him quick. So as we can see last year, Darnell Nurse was able to play all 56 games, putting up 36 points, which at a point per game, at a points per game pace, better than anything else in his career. He also gobbles up 25 minutes of ice time, and this is the regular season. We remember his playoff run where he played almost 65 minutes in a game against the Jets. This man is a horse. He can eat up minutes. He plays on the power play. He plays on the penalty kill. He plays on 5-on-5. That is what makes Darnell Nurse so special. He plays in all situations and produces points and good defensive zone responsibility all over. Taking a look at some of his more advanced stats, his points per 60 games come in at 1.5. That is better than any other time in his career. His points even strength, 1.4, and his power play points are massive. His power play points as both assists and goals, everything grew. These are signs of number one NHL talent. But the trouble is, if he gets hurt or he doesn't live up to this number and he's unable to carry them, then that is a lot of risk, because you can have 2 very solid defensemen for $4.5 to $4.7 million, where you can hedge your risk and spread out ice time and spread out points versus a player like this. But the problem with doing that is stats aren't always easy to say, hey, I'll just bring in 2 guys to do the job of 1, because Darnell Nurse just does things that other players on the ice can't do. So there you go, Oilers fans. Let me know what you think of this contract. Let me know what you think about having the big 3 locked up to massive deals for the foreseeable future. And this is going to be a little nerve-wracking because, again, like the Pittsburgh Penguins are in now, you're going to have a bunch of 34 to 35-year-old players with massive cap hits. Think Duncan Keith. That's another guy on your team right now. At the twilight of their career, will they be able to produce and live up to contracts like this? None of it will matter, though, if you win a Stanley Cup in the near future. All right, the New York Islanders do the exact opposite. They get their number one guy locked up to a very team-friendly deal. This is another 8-year deal at a low cap hit. And if I'm Adam Pelech, based on what I have done in my career and where I'm playing in New York with the potential of this team and who my teammates are, I am super happy to lock myself up to a guaranteed $46 million. There are a lot of players in today's NHL that, because of the flat cap, are trying to sign 2 to 4-year deals so that when the cap goes up, they can cash in big. But you know what? We're all simple, regular people listening to this channel. And most NHL players, before they join the NHL, were that as well too, or come from families like that. If you think through this logically for Pelech, you get to stay in one of the greatest cities on the planet in New York, or a legendary franchise where you are unquestionably the number one guy that is going to eat a lot of time and minutes. You're really appreciated in a building that has tons of great fans, and you have just guaranteed yourself $46 million. Doesn't matter what happens to you going forward, that $46 million is going into your bank account. So to sign a, let's say, 4-year deal where you take home $25 million and then try to cash in again, so maybe on your second deal you can bring in more for a total of 8 years being, say, like 55, 56 million. You leave that $10 million on the table and you guarantee yourself $46 million. I love when players do this because how much money does one person need? This is team and cap friendly. This is a deal that a team can build a Stanley Cup championship around. Because of this deal and the fact that he is an actual number one, you can build a team around this. The difference with Pelech and Nurse, though, and why I have them in this video together isn't just timing of their deals. It's the fact that Pelech is a pure defensive defenseman. What Pelech brings is pure shutdown ability to some of the league's best players. He has owned Sidney Crosby in many respects when matched up against him. He is able to contain guys like Alexander Ovechkin. He is able to play against guys like the perfection line and do really, really well. So this is a defensive defenseman. He doesn't put up the point totals like Nurse. He doesn't play the power play like Nurse. He's not a game changer like Nurse from an offensive perspective. Nurse does everything: defensive, offensive, and shutdown. Adam Pelech is a pure meat and potatoes, good skating shutdown defenseman that can contribute with points at certain times of the game, but he's not going to be your main power play quarterback. So I really like this deal, and it allows you to bring in another defenseman that can go ahead and quarterback your power play in the future if required. So this is just a beautiful team-friendly deal. Let's go ahead and take a look at his stats. So Adam Pelech comes in with about 21 minutes of time on ice in his last 2 seasons. Compare that to 23 minutes and 25 minutes with Darnell Nurse. The big difference with that is going to be the power play and how much in the end of the game you are going to be putting this player on the ice. He comes in with about 14 points in this season. He had a shortened season before, but this is a guy that averages between 20 and 30 points as a defenseman, but that is not who Adam Pelech is. He's not a guy that's going to come up and bring in 50 or 45 points like most top pairing NHL defensemen will. He is a pure shutdown player, and that is fine, especially when you are playing in a division like the Metro, which the Islanders are. A lot of talent in that division, so you need what this guy brings. You take a look at his points per 60 minutes, his power play points, not existent because he doesn't play on it. His points per game total, it's basically half of what Darnell Nurse's is, and his deal is slightly more than half of what Darnell Nurse's is. So these are the types of things that general managers look at when signing big deals. And I know we're going to talk about defensive stats, but go ahead and take a look at the hits and the blocked shots. 66 and 73 right here for Adam Pelech. We go over to Darnell Nurse, 117 and 100. So in most categories, Darnell Nurse does vastly exceed Adam Pelech, which is why his payday does. This just comes down to armchair general managers' opinions. I mean, our opinions don't matter, but you're watching YouTube, so we're going to pretend like it does. Armchair general managers' opinions of what you'd rather have. Would you rather have a lower cap hit, less risky player like Adam Pelech due to the amount of money, or the high risk, high reward of Darnell Nurse, who is a true number one defenseman in all areas of the game? You let me know down below in these comments. This has been Coach Ryan D. Keep coming for the off season.